Awesome. Well, yeah, no, you can see just kind of even at the end there, like, it's a different type team. Like we're going to try to play faster this year. Our point guard's doing a really good job pushing the basketball, even though, JJ, wasn't available today. He's been tremendous in his workouts. But I really like our guard play and how we're taking good shots for the most part and moving the basketball we're still down two bigs right now. Christian and Madi are not here yet. Hopefully they'll be here, probably middle of August. So our depth is a little screwed up right now, and you see we have a couple guys injured, so it's hard. We only got, basically 5-on-5 with no subs. But I really like how the guys are competing and just the chemistry of the team, like sharing the basketball, like they're talking to each other the right way, which is not always easy to do when you have a bunch of guys that want to score the basketball. But they're doing a really good job, playing for each other so far.
The speed you're playing at.
Yeah.
The speed you're playing at. Are these guys, most of your guys, used to this, or is this an adjustment for them having to speed up this fast?
It's probably a little bit of an adjustment, but this is how this is how my teams play. Like I said, last year is not indicative of how fast I want to play. Like my team at Utah State was one of the fastest in the country at playing. And that's how we want to play. And I think with these guys, we have a team to do that this year. Like we need to push the ball in transition. We need to get our post guys, rim running and getting some layups and putting pressure on the rim. We got point guards that can really come down and ISO guys. We can pitch the ball up and shoot, transition threes, which is dangerous and open up games. And so, we have guys that can do it. Now you have to be in great shape to do it, and it has to become a mentality. Which for some of our guys, it's not a habit yet. But the more we just practice it and practice it and practice it, really like, challenging our point guards, we got to get the ball either off a miss or get it out of the net and up the floor to the other 3-point line in 4 seconds. And when you're doing that, you're making the wings run. You're making the big guys rim run. And, until it becomes a habit, which it's getting closer, by the day, but we do want to play, much, much faster.
How big can you play and maintain that pace? Front court, can you have two or three bigs?
It depends. Like we have so many guards, it's going to, depending on who we're playing, but we do have some skilled guys, that are some fours that can play big three if we have to. But I think with our guard play and our depth there, we're not going to have to play a big at the 3 spot much. It probably might be the other way around where we're playing 4 guards and playing really fast.
With Madi coming from France, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. And Christian Naitu coming from Canada, is there any worries about them getting across the border, getting into the country?
No, like it should be. They should be set. They've had their obviously their meetings overseas, and like now it's just kind of getting them here. I think they're saying kind of mid-August at the latest. And Christian, he's actually, he was with the Romanian national team over there and playing really well. And so, no, we expect both of them here in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know it's really early and this is off-season workouts. You're not even looking at it like a starting lineup. You're just kind of splitting them up to make them even. Is that the idea?
Every week we're kind of pitting different teams against each other. And we'll keep that whole team for the whole week, and then we chart wins. Mm-hmm. And that way, no matter if you're Zoom playing with Frank and Hannes one week, and then the next week Zoom's playing with Lathan and Jacob, but that way we're just tracking guys' wins, and then obviously we track everything in our 5-on-5 segments, but mostly I want to see they got to all learn how to play with each other. Yeah. Because even if we do have a starting 5, which we don't right now, as soon as we make a sub, you're playing with different guys, and so or some guy goes down with an injury like JJ today or yesterday, so now we have 2 different point guards playing. So,
you know these guys pretty well because you recruited them and brought them in and scouted them. And anybody's shown you something that you didn't really expect that has a skill that kind of opened your eyes when you saw them up close?
Probably like all of them have done something. I think Lathan Somerville. He can do a lot more on the perimeter than I thought. He's shooting the ball, pretty well. Now we know his bread's buttered down low because he's so big and strong. But he is capable of, when we play our 5-out offense, like he's capable of doing some things out there. I think Frank Kepnang, he's in the best shape of his life right now, and I think having the depth behind him too, is really pushing him to another level. Like he's been great. Kamari Peterson's really good. Kamari Peterson, he can really shoot the basketball. Now I knew that, like just watching film, but when you just see him in person, like how thick and strong he is, but really shooting the basketball, that's been impressive. Zoom, like you guys probably seen, like he looks like he's grown. He really does. Like he looks like he's grown a half inch, 3/4 of an inch from last year. He's in great shape. He's shooting the ball much better. You can tell he's really worked on his shot. Since the season got over, and he's playing with an unbelievable confidence right now, shooting the basketball. Then obviously, Desmond and Wesley, everybody knew what they can do. I could go literally down every single player, and there's certain things that they're doing where I'm like, okay, they got, even our freshmen, Jossier and Cortland, are doing great. Hannes, we knew what he could do. We'd seen a lot of film on him, and you could even see out there, like, his skill level is just different for a big guy. He thinks like a point guard and plays like a point guard. He's under control. He's 6'11". The game is pretty easy for him. Now it's just getting used to the physicality of American play and shrinking the floor. It's not as open as the European game. Just getting used to that, but he's been tremendous.
I saw Hannes dive for a loose ball and throw it back in bounds.
Yeah.
As expected, is he a 4, 5, 3, all of those? And is he still growing? Is he still growing?
4, but he can play some small ball 5. He's skilled enough to play 3 if we needed to, but he's a natural 4. Mm-hmm.
Is he still growing?
Yeah, I think he is, because he's taller than he was on his official visit, significantly. He's probably at least an inch taller than he was on his visit, and that was 6 months ago. So hopefully he's not done.
You guys brought in a ton of guys who can score and score in a variety of different ways. And I know you mentioned positional versatility. What does that do for you as a coach offensively, especially having that?
Well, it makes it easier because you don't have to run as many sets. Like, guys can just go make plays. Now we're just really focused on our spacing and just making sure we're getting a great shot every possession. And sometimes sometimes it's a fight. But it's like we have too many talented scorers to take a bad shot or a contested shot, especially early in a possession. And getting these guys to really play for each other, set screens for each other. When I drive, my whole goal is to get 2 guys on the ball to get somebody open. And they're buying into it because there are unselfish kids. Now, do they all want to score? No question. And do I know it's going to change when games start and fans are in the stands and their parents are there? Yeah. Everybody wants to, but we have to ingrain those habits of playing for each other and getting the best shot for UW. Like at the end of the day, if we do that and then crash the offensive glass, because that's another thing we're doing different. We're sending all 5 guys to the offensive glass, just trying to get as many offensive possessions as you can. And, after going through the Big Ten, like that's what a lot of teams do. You look at, the top 5 teams in the league last year, they were the best rebounding teams. Whether it's defensive rebounding percentage or flying to the offensive glass, getting offensive possessions, extra possessions, like that's how you win in this league. And then you still have to be great in transition defense, but that effort has to be there.
And Desmond Claude's one of those guys who's had a ton of big-time success at a high-level basketball. What has he brought in terms of his presence to this program? Yeah,
he's a natural basketball player. Like he can get to the paint anytime he wants. Now it's really teaching him you don't have to do it every single time, even though he's capable of doing that. Sometimes it's like, no, just catch it, move it, and then when you get it back, now you're going to be even more open, or to get yourself a layup or somebody else a shot, because he's capable of creating offense every time his hands are on the ball. Like he really is. He can move in like Euro step, like it's so easy for him. He's so fluid and quick. And a lot of guys, you talk about like their first step, like, hey, he's got a great first step. Desmond has a great second and third step. Like he'll get by you, and then it's like boom, boom, and it's crazy how he gets to different spots on the floor. But he's a really talented offensive player.
Could you talk a little bit more about that rebounding depth that you just mentioned? Because it just feels like you made that such a massive priority, whether it be through the transfer portal or recruiting. It just feels like you are ready to take a big step forward in that department.
Yeah, we have to. In order to get to the top of the league, if you're not a physical, tough rebounding team, you have no chance. Like, you're going to get exposed. And that's why at every spot, like, and we didn't do it intentionally. We just had to get the best players and get a lot of talent in here. But you can see, like, our body types are different. You know, like Zoom, Frank, Wesley Yates, Desmond, Kamari, you know, even Hannes is a freshman. JJ is a freshman. Cortland, like, our freshmen look like sophomores and juniors. Like, they're big-bodied kids, and that's what, you know, that's one thing we wanted to attack in recruiting. And my staff did a tremendous job, like, bringing in those type of body types that can handle that.
And then one other thing, last time we spoke with you, you talked about Kumari being that end-of-clock guy you were looking for. How much easier does that make it in terms of just play calling or different things that you need to do offensively when you know that you have someone you can trust when the shot clock is ticking down?
Yeah, and not just Kamari, like Zoom, Desmond, you know, Wesley, Bryson Tucker, like, you can just get the ball in their hand. Hannes, you know, Hannes is a great playmaker. And so there's so many guys that we actually have to – I don't want to just run off. Hopefully we don't even get to the end of the possession. Hopefully we're getting a clean shot before that. But if we do, I don't want to just back it up and just come into a ball screen. Like, that ball should be moving, and we should be attacking the paint, and either attacking the paint to shoot it or to get somebody a shot. And then that way our guys know where to crash from our offensive rebounding spots. But, you know, God forbid it does happen. Like, we do have a lot of really good one-on-one players that can create their own shot, including Kamari.
I think every good team has a guy on their team that does the little things, has a senior presence, and just has that stability and not all elbows and ankles, and just does things smooth. Is Jacob that guy?
He is. He is. And it's funny because I think he's our leading returning scorer. I mean, he averaged like 18, 19 a game. You know, I think Des and them were like 15, 16. You know, and he's such just he's a good basketball player. You know, like, he could force some shots at times, but he's not. But he is that glue guy. Like, our offense on whatever team he's on, him and JJ right now, like, whatever team they're on, the offense flows better. Like, everybody's getting shots, everybody's getting touches. Guys are running their spot because they know they're going to get it in the right spot. And, you know, those two are, like, really kind of glue guys right now. There's more of them that are doing really good things too, but, like, those two really stand out as doing all the little stuff and just doing it right every single possession. You know, like, it's kind of ingrained habit-wise in both of those guys right now.
And from what we saw out there today, how does it look different when you put JJ out there?
Yeah, like we play, like today we were playing fast. Like, we really challenged our guys, like I said, to get it up to the other 3-point line within 4 seconds. Whether it's with the pass or point guard, you're dribbling that thing up, we're coming off drag. Like, we want to play that fast. JJ's natural with that. Like, he's just one of those kids, and I've been fortunate. I've had some really good point guards. Like Kid Harold Frey and Darius Brown, Xavier Bitt, like, where they just had a natural feel to play fast but still make the right decision all the time. And JJ's that. You know, I mean, even the coaches at Team USA, you know, the coach at Texas Tech in Arizona, they're just like, man, like, we didn't realize he was this good. You know, like, just his feel. He went to the Donovan Mitchell camp last week, and a couple of the, you know, scouts and coaches there are just like, man, if he wasn't the best player, he might have been the second best player, just because he just does things the right way. You know, his decision making is, like I said, even with Hannes, like, it's two freshmen that come in that the game is pretty easy for them. You know, like, they've played so much basketball and watched so much film. Like, JJ's up here watching film every day. You know, like, he's watched more film in his months here right now than most of our guards did all last year. Like, but that's just, he could be in there 16 hours a day. He loves it. And that's why the game's easy for him. You know, if he gets hedge, he knows what to do. If team's ice, he knows what to do, which it makes the game easier for his teammates too.
I know it's early, but, you know, you've got so much depth, it appears, that you can play a little bit of mad scientist. Can you put JJ and Kumari together on the court at the same time?
Mm-hmm. You can, because they're both good decision makers. They can both shoot. You know, Kamari can really shoot it. JJ can shoot the ball a lot better than people think too. Now, I know people think he can shoot but he's improved his shot a lot too. But when you have guys that just make the right play, you can put anybody on the floor. And they're both tough enough and physical enough and big enough to where they can guard guys. You know, they can guard 1, 2s, 3s. They can switch late in the possession and guard 4s because they are strong enough. You know, you probably saw, I mean, JJ and Kamar, they got big legs too. Like, these are strong kids. You know, they're not, you know, JJ's not built like a typical freshman point guard, you know, and that's going to help him get on the floor early.
From last year to this year, what's one area you feel like, hey, this team's grown the most? Obviously, it's a complete new roster, but that fans should be expecting it, at least in that sense.
I think just personality. Like this group plays with some fire. You know, like they talk. They'll be out here. They'll challenge each other. Like they'll compete. You know, and it's a whole different energy, you know, than we had last year. You know, like these guys, like they'll be bickering back and forth and challenging each other in practice. Like, I mean, you saw Wesley got pissed at me because we called a foul at the end of practice today because it was for a game, you know, but that's how competitive these guys are. And I love it. I'm like, yeah, great, but don't foul him. It's not my fault you fouled him, you know, but I love that competitiveness because they knew the game was on the line. But I think they do a really good job challenging each other. We haven't, like, had to tell these guys to hang out off the court or do team barbecues and anything yet. You know, like we will, but anytime I see the freshmen outside practice, all 4 of them are together. If I see Hannes, you see JJ, you see Cortland, you see Jasir. If I see Jasir over here, you see the other 3 amigos over. Like they're all together, you know. And then you always see Frank or Zoom, like they're taking those young guys in too. And so it's a fun group to be around. And even walking into practice every day, like, you know, like. You don't have to go get somebody fired up. I don't have to be like, hey, let's go today. Like they're the ones getting each other going, which is awesome to be a part of.
You mentioned last year at midseason when USC was coming in, we asked you about Yates, and you said when you took over, you had great conversations with him, and then you said, I don't know what happened when he left. Did you ever sit down and talk to him about that, him leaving, and what?
No, I haven't. Like, you know, because he's a phenomenal kid, you know, and even it's funny. Even when I called Coach Musselman, you know, like he had great things to say about Wes. You know, he was like, man, I'm telling you, you're gonna love coaching him. Like he competes, he does this, and it was the same thing I felt like before he went to USC. You know, he's fun to be around. He's a great teammate. That's one thing I've really noticed. Like when other guys are making shots, he's the first one like, hey, great shot, Jacob. Hey, great job, JJ. Like he's really rooting on his teammates. But I haven't asked him why or what. You never know nowadays, and it's like you can't. It's not most of the time. It's not the kid's fault, you know, or anybody's fault. Like kids are all leaving.
Well, outside of Damon Lillard, who's back with the Trailblazers, you don't see too many guys go back to the team they left.
Yeah.
So for Yates, it's kind of unusual. It's almost, I know it's even a different coaching staff that he had here, but it's almost like it's unfinished business for him. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, no question. And I think it showed like how much he like enjoyed his time at UW. You know, I mean, he could have went. He could have went anywhere. I mean, in fact, we thought he was going to go to Kentucky when he first left. You know, I mean, there were some other big-time schools, but he had a great experience at UW, which helped us get him, to be honest. And so, you know, if he wouldn't have had a good time, and I'm not talking just basketball, I'm talking with the community, with academics, with the athletic department, like that's what he enjoyed about Seattle. Yeah.
Your non-conference schedule got released today. Just comments on that. You got a game down in Baylor. Will you be stopping by a Buc-ee's?
I hope so. I don't even know what Buc-ee's is. Hopefully it's some good food. Is it barbecue? It's a gas station?
All you can eat jerky.
There you go. Well, we got to clear that through our nutritionist first. But yeah, no, our non-conference schedule's really good. In fact, it might be sometimes too hard. Like we have, you know, at Baylor, you know, at Washington State, you know, we got Utah coming here. The tournament down in Palm Springs will be really good. And then even some of like, you know, San Diego coming here, like San Diego's going to be much, much improved. They got some really good talent. Coach Lavin will do a great job. I mean, forget, you know, at Seattle U, you know, so like we have some hard games. And then you got to mix in the 2, you know, early Big Ten games in December. And so we'll, you know, we've got to get good in a hurry, and we got to come together and play together really well from the start.
I haven't had a chance to ask you, but you brought Quincy Pondexter back as well. Can you talk a little bit about Quincy and what he brings?
Yeah, he just brings his energy's been awesome. You know, our players, like, they see it, you know, skill development wise, getting shots up, and even in practice, like, you know, like he's getting guys going, which it's fun to see. But, you know, you can just see how much pride he has in being a Husky. You know, you really can. Like, I mean, every day he'll say something where you can feel it. You know, you can feel how much, you know, this program means to him, and how excited he is to help us get, you know, back on track. But I think just when you have anybody that had the success as a player that he had, you know, not just here, but 9 years in the NBA, it goes a long way. You know, it goes a long way in recruiting. You know, when we're recruiting a 6'8" wing, and it's like, okay, well, I got a couple guys on my staff that wore NBA jerseys that can actually help you get there. You know, and that's a big part of recruiting now, because that's what these kids want. They want that development to get to the next level. And he firsthand, you guys saw him, like, he's one of the hardest workers that it's ever been in this program. You know, from just a grind mentality, and he still has that as a coaching mentality, which is great.
Hey, any update on the practice facility? When do you think you'll get the keys, and how will that place sort of, I don't know, help your program?
Yeah, it'll help. Just that way we know what time we're practicing every day. We don't have to practice at 9 a.m. in the fall, and then in the winter, you know, going at 2. You know, we can keep our guys on the same schedule every day all year. They'll have, you know, access 24/7, you know, which will be great. But it'll be a great recruiting tool too. You know, like when you're walking into that football stadium and you see the basketball complex, I mean, it's going to be beautiful. It really is, and it'll show, you know, a lot of the, you know, the tradition of both women's and men's programs. You know, I mean, we'll have, you know, the walls will be lined up with a lot of the former players and former NBA guys and WNBA players. And so it'll be a kind of a historical kind of land site for Husky basketball too. But just being able to have, you know, our own gym all the time, in case we do have to change stuff with class, like we can just get right in, you know. And we'll still have a lot of access to, you know, Alaska Airlines Arena to come in and shoot, you know, in the game arena also. But it'll be great, you know, not just for, you know, both basketball programs, but for volleyball too, because they'll take over Harsh. And so just it'll be a lot more space, and it'll just free up a lot of time. But it should be hopefully, you know, hopefully late September, early October, you know, from what I'm hearing.
So before the season then, or maybe during
Yeah,
the season,
like
or?
it'll probably for sure be before games start. You know, official practice starts that last week of September. So hopefully we can get in there that first official day of practice.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet. Thank you, guys.